Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. I'm Sarah Martin with The Contoured Chemist. Can you guess what we're talking about today? Just from what I'm wearing? Maybe this will help. If you are new to this channel, welcome. I promise I'm not crazy. We're talking color correctors today. Actually, we're just talking about how to get started with a color corrector if you've been color matched to one. Kind of the things you need to know as far as application and why you use a color corrector, how you use it, why I recommend using it, and why it's so magical. And if you are not new here, you know my powerful love for Magic Mango. I'm talking about all in general, but you guys know this is like my ride or die. So this is mainly what I talk about today. But how you can use it. So if you want to check it out and see what I recommend, please keep watching. If you're new here, I'd love if you'd stick around, like, and subscribe if this video helps you. And as always, thanks for being here, guys. Guys, let's go ahead and get started talking about one of my favorite subjects, Magic Mango. I even tried to wear some festive orange, as orange as I get, because I don't wear orange. Because people always they see that color in the 10 and they're like, no, I can't wear that. That is orange. I promise I call it magical for a reason. Trust me if I color match you with it. I promise it will work. Now, there is some trial and error when it comes to mango. Because our creams are so pigmented, I get a lot of questions on how to use it properly because people will come back to me and they're like, it's not working. It's making me orange. It's pulling me too dark, too warm, all the things. So let's talk about Magic Mango, and I'm gonna talk about some different techniques depending on how I've color matched you, depending on the way I tell you to wear it. Okay, so if you don't know what I'm talking about, Mango is one of our highlight shades. I use it as a color corrector. Okay, I get this question sometimes because people are like, wait, I thought that was a color corrector. All of our shades are considered highlight shades. Now, some people can use certain colors for a main highlight. Some can use them for an accent highlight. It's all dependent on skin tone. What we've figured out from years of trial and error with this makeup is that certain colors are good for certain, I don't want to say concerns for the skin as far as needing a color corrector. So I consider a color corrector something you use under your main highlight shade. So you always apply it first. It should always be the darkest shade. If you've been matched to a color corrector and it is lighter than your normal shade, you've been color matched improperly. It should never be lighter. With this makeup, you have to match the darkest tones of the face first and then layer lighter shades in order to brighten to the color you want. If you do it the other way around, it's all of a sudden, it's gonna fade. It's not gonna last but an hour or two. And you're gonna have a lot of issues with your makeup looking textured, increasing the look of fine lines and pores and all the things we don't want. It's one of the reasons we switched to cream makeup. It makes us look more youthful. We don't want the opposite, but the color is key with this makeup. And if you're not getting the look that you want, you probably have the wrong shades. I'll get off my soapbox now. Let's go back to color correction. So what we found are certain shades will color correct better than others depending on the undertones in that color, which is why a lot of times you see Frenchy, which is a lip and cheek shade used for color correction. I only recommend this under the eyes if you have blue or purple tones like under your eyes like I do, okay? I don't recommend it anywhere on the face to color correct. I feel like it doesn't work as well And it's not necessary when there's something called Magic Mango. I call it magic, it's just called mango. If you compare the tones, I probably should have put them side by side. Let's drag this out real quick. If you compare the undertones, okay? Undertones are what makes something a good color corrector or not, okay? This is very salmon, okay? Salmon, peach, orange, pretty much, okay? So is mango. Mango has very orange undertones, which people, I mean, before they redid the pictures on the website, it looked straight up orange, and it didn't look that way in real life, but they were very deceiving. It still kind of does, but let me tell you, when you simply use it on the skin, even though my hand is nowhere near orange, when it gets blended out, it can pull warm depending on your skin tone, but it's all in the amounts, you guys. This makeup is so versatile, but it's all because of the pigmentation. So some people will need to use more and some people will need to use less. This is why my color matches are very specific. I try to mark up the face, showing you exactly where you're gonna need more or less. So if you've been color matched by me, you kind of know where I mark. If I mark a longer line, that means you're gonna need to buff it in a larger area. Some people only need mango in certain areas. So for me, obviously I'm the easiest example. I do use it on a larger area, but I don't use it everywhere. I don't use it here. I don't use it around my mouth usually, but looking at my face, let's dissect it a little bit. So when I get your color match picture, straight up, the first thing I'm doing is looking to find the darkest point on your face. And if you have something that is considered a concern, so those main things are redness, dark circles, or any kind of hyperpigmentation, whether it's melasma or age spots, or whether you tell me those things, it's all in the quality of picture. If you send me a picture that's not real clear, yet you're telling me those things, I take those into consideration when I'm color matching you, so you know your options. If you want to try a color corrector, if you're not getting the coverage you really want from your main shade. Some of our shades don't color correct as good as others. It's all, like I said, dependent on their undertones, and some colors I don't feel color correct redness or darkness in any way. They really just don't, because they're either too neutral or too white undertoned, whatever the case is. So anyway, I'm trained to know that stuff. You don't have to worry about it. I can tell you what colors you need. If you need a color match, by the way, it's in the description box below. And you can shoot me that, and I'm happy to color match you and tell you exactly what you need and the application methods I would suggest for you, like I'm going to be talking about here. So back to the face. I'm looking at those concerns. I'm looking at the depth, okay? It's really dependent on depth. Mango is not the only color corrector. There are others, but it's depending on how dark you are. So me, I wear Sandy, which is a pretty dark shade. Not the darkest, you know, but I am somewhere in the middle to tan. So I'd consider it tan. I'm a self tanner, so this isn't real. And, I could wear mango on the face, but it pulls me too dark. Okay. Knowing that I'm like, if I'm looking at somebody to color match them and they have dark circles, redness, and hyperpigmentation like I do, but they are the color Sandy, I know as an artist, Sandy's not gonna cover that for them. I can wear Sandy, but I don't get very good coverage. And those certain things just start peeking out through the hours. And I like more of a medium coverage. So I choose to use a color corrector. So if you have more extreme redness than I do, my redness isn't horrible, especially today. It's just kind of pink. But if it's, I look at the depth. So if it's pink, usually you don't need a separate color corrector. Your main shade will suffice. Our colors are all yellow based in some way so that they're all meant to color correct to a degree. But I know what will color correct and what won't. So if I do make a suggestion for an optional color corrector, it's because you're borderline or it's dependent upon the coverage you want. So if you say you like a natural coverage and you just have some pink tones, I'm not gonna give you a color corrector. If you're saying you want full coverage and you have any concerns, you're gonna get a color corrector. I know that that is the best choice for you to get the makeup the way you want it. So it's all on that questionnaire you fill out from me. That's how I pick and choose your colors based on your selfie. So the selfie is also so important, I can't tell you. Please do not take it inside at night. It's not gonna help me in any way. You're not gonna get your perfect shades. I can only guarantee my matches if it's taken in front of a window in natural lighting. I have an entire video on how to take the perfect selfie for a color match. I can link that below as well. Moving on. So I'm looking at your face and I'm looking at the darkest tones and I'm looking at, if you do have redness, how deep the redness is. So if it's not very deep, if it's just pink, there are much lighter shades. But even if you are, say, very fair, so I would say fair is anything from white peach to candlelit as a main shade. You are more or less pretty fair. Now, I'm telling you right now, as an artist, I've been an artist for 3 years this month. It's very rare that someone can wear a shade such as white peach or candlelit without a color corrector if they have any concerns like that. Those are very, very fair. Now, I'm not saying that like I've never color matched anyone to those, but they have no redness, no darkness, no hyperpigmentation or dark circles. They could use that as a main shade over a color corrector though. I color match people that all the time. So again, I'm looking at the face, I'm looking at the neck. Neck and chest are very important in color matching, which is why I say you have to show those in your photo. Because if I can't see, if say you have a dark chest and a dark face, but your neck is really light, I wanna know what you need to match. I wanna know what you want, and that can make a huge difference in the colors I choose for you. Okay, so I hope this explanation kind of helps you guys understand the way I color match. I'm not necessarily going to give you a main shade based on what matches your neck. If you do have areas of concern or those dark red, that more deep red, or your face, big one is if your face is darker than your neck and chest, you have to match those tones first. Then I will give you a much lighter highlight that will then kind of, I call it meet in the middle, and the layering of those two shades is going to match the rest of you. That is our goal. We want everything matching and tied together and cohesive and looking natural on the face. And with this makeup, you cannot apply a lighter shade directly to your face. If it's darker than that, it's just gonna wear off, give you all those issues like I said before. So now, it can be varying degrees of how much of this color corrector you're gonna use depending on what your main shade is. So if your main shade is candlelit or white peach, but your face needs mango, okay, that's a big jump. That means that your face is much darker than your neck. You might not need as much mango because it's gonna pull you way too dark. Okay, so when I color match you and mark up your face, I'm just gonna use my finger to demonstrate. I feel like brushes can sometimes make things a little bit more difficult because depending on the brush you have and how you're applying, when you're starting out, the hardest thing with this makeup is determining how much to use. I've been there. I used way too much in the beginning, and I know I stress, use a light hand, but you have to use a light hand and yet trial and error to find out what's gonna give you the right amount of coverage as well. You don't wanna make it so light that you're not getting the coverage you need. Okay, so Mango. What I recommend when you first get your color corrector, don't even use your brush, not at first. Simply take your finger, tap on, okay? Not a lot, and put it on a dot, okay? So if I mark on your face that you're gonna apply Mango to the high points of the face, which is a majority of people just need it on the high points, and they have lighter areas that they don't necessarily need, then I would say high points of the face are the forehead, nose, cheeks, and chin. And that is like where the sun hits the most. That's usually the darkest parts. That's usually the area that gets the most sun damage. So like me, obviously my nose sticks out because it is the darkest part of my face. And then I have redness right there. Okay, so I'm just gonna dot it. And honestly, I think I feel like I dotted a little bit too much in certain spots, but I'm just gonna dot it. Now, if you have areas of hyperpigmentation I marked up, dot it on that area, okay? If you have dark circles, okay, use your finger for the first time. I recommend trying it with your finger first, kind of learning the amount. So I do the same thing, I tap in, and then I'm going to kind of use my finger and warm it up right underneath. And I'm just gonna kind of blend as I go so it's not too thick. Okay, so that all that color is kind of getting dispersed. And can you tell it, like you can barely see it once I kind of use the warmth of my finger to blend it in. Okay, so applying with a brush is gonna get you a heavier application. And when we're first learning how much Mango you need, use your finger. I find it so much easier, okay? Some people like to call it the cheetah method. I'm not necessarily saying you have to dot it everywhere. I'm just saying dot it on the high points of your face, anywhere I marked on your color match, and then grab the B squared. There's a reason I recommend this brush for beginners. Okay, so I know a lot of people like to start with the 30-second. If you have 2 layer shades, if you are a mango girl, mango candlelit, mango white peach, I don't recommend this side of the brush. You're gonna pick up too much product, and this is much harder to use for color correction. You can try this end. I find that this, again, picks up much more product than this, and it just does not buff it out in the same way. 9 times out of 10, if I'm having a girl that has to use a, Mango as a color corrector, and they have this brush to start with, they come back to me having issues with applying too much, okay? Buffy, definitely not. Unless you're only applying Mango under the eyes. So some people just have dark circles, and I say, optional Mango to color correct under the eyes, especially if they're matched to a main highlight shade that I know does not color correct darkness in any way. I will suggest Mango. Or Frenchie if they like peach tones. I feel like those are about the same level as far as color correctors under the eyes for that blue purple darkness. If they have any other concerns on their face as far as redness or hyperpigmentation, I will not suggest Frenchie. I say go with Mango. You can use that color in other areas of your face, and it gives you one less color in your compact. I'm all for, if you have one concern, I'm gonna give you a color that's gonna work for all of them, if that makes sense. Okay, Detail HAC, I feel, you guys know I love this brush for contour. You could use this to buff it all over the face, but then I don't recommend it for the second step. So I'll get there in a second. This is my ride or die. This brush is by far my choice for mature skin. There's something about the way this applies in such a light layer and buffs it out better than any of our other brushes, okay? This small end was originally meant for blush. Oh my gosh, I would rather use this for highlight than blush, really. It's just so good. Okay, so now that I've talked too much, that color has kind of warmed up on my skin. So if you're finding that mango's maybe not blending out super well for you, or you're playing straight with the brush, try the dot method, let it kind of warm up on the skin for a second, then just take this brush and buff. Like, it seriously will disappear. Now, I know I'm much darker, so it's harder to see on my skin tone. I wish I had like a white peach girl that needs mango that I could show you a demonstration. I will see if I can find somebody to demo it on. But do you see how it just kind of disappears in the skin if you're using a very small amount? So in my color match email, I tell you less is more. The very thin layer. Okay, we always want to start with a thin layer with this makeup. Okay, you never, like, the biggest thing with this makeup is if you're trying to get full coverage, you don't add one thick layer. You build it up in thin layers, or it's never going to work for you. This makeup is designed to be buildable and designed to give you the type of coverage you want depending on how much you use. But using too much of any of these colors is just, you're not gonna like it. The pigmentation is so much higher than any other makeup on the market that, like, you just can't use it the same way. Okay, so that is what I consider a thin layer, okay? On me, since I'm darker, you can't even see it. But just that small amount of mango to match the darkest tones of my skin, my main shade, once I apply it over it, I'm gonna have much better longevity. So when someone says, mango's not working for me, try less. Try just dotting it, okay? And kind of trial and error. Experiment with how much you can use to get it to work for you. And using your finger, you can control the amount so much more than dipping it with the brush. Now, I know I always dip it in the brush, but I've been doing this for 3 years. I know exactly how much to pick up depending on the brush in my hand, but that takes a lot of practice. So don't swipe in. Oh, please, just don't ever swipe into mango. You will turn orange, okay? Even though I say all the time it's not orange, if you use the right amount. Okay, so now that I am pretty covered, now is where I say, if you need more coverage, we build up, okay? If you're one of those people with redness and you apply your, buff it in your thin layer and you can clearly see you need more, then grab your brush. Then tap in. One tap. That's it. Okay? So for me, I'm probably pretty good, but I'm gonna go ahead and add this on my nose. My nose is the darkest. Noses seem to have the most longevity issues. I have plenty of clients that just need mango on their nose in order for their main shade to last all day, because their nose is 3 shades darker, kind of like mine is. Okay? There's nothing wrong with that. Okay, now we're going to press only if you need it. Okay, so try just doing that method of buffing, apply your main shade, and see how you like the coverage and the longevity. You can always add more in a sec. I'll show you how. Okay, so now I'm gonna press. So now is the step I press more only where needed. Okay, so I'm big on pressing. If you've never seen my videos before, I press on my shades because I have that base color corrector and I don't want to move it around. Okay, now I'm gonna use my finger again because this is too big. You can use a brush. I tend to just use my finger because I like the way it melts in. So if you have spots of hyperpigmentation, if you don't want to use your finger, I really like the end of the Detail HAC for this. And you can spot cover, okay? So anywhere you have dark spots and you want extra coverage on, here is where you press it on. Okay, press it on. Okay, now, once you're at that stage where you're like, okay, everything I want covered looks covered, even though it might not give you as full coverage as you want. We haven't done our main shade yet. That's gonna build up coverage in a whole new way. Okay, but here's where my new girls utilize this bad boy. If you do not have a Perfector and you've been matched to 3 shades like I use, you're not gonna like it. I promise. It's going to look, first of all, you're gonna have creasing. More than likely, it's gonna pull you too dark, or it's not gonna look like skin. It's gonna look like heavy makeup. It's gonna feel heavier. This thing is like a must-have. It's magic as well. So what I did is I got it damp in the sink. I squeezed out as much as I could, put it in a very absorbent towel, squeezed it out numerous times again, and this baby just feels cold to the touch and is not leaving any water on my skin. Too wet, it'll straight up pull that mango you just applied completely off. And it sucks if you do that, or if you've done your full face and then you go to Perfect and then you're like, it just pulled off my makeup in patches. Dry, I don't feel like it does enough. If you have really oily skin though, you might like it dry. You can play with it. Okay, so this baby's damp. I am simply going to gently press it anywhere I applied mango. Now you guys will see in most of my videos, I don't necessarily use this at every step. Again, because I've been using it so much, I know I've added the right amount, but for beginners, I very, 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 very much recommend using this in between every layer, okay? And that's just to ensure you don't have excess, because I mean, I don't feel like it really did anything because I know I don't have excess and it is locked and loaded. But for beginners, and especially if you're feeling it's pulling you orange or too dark or anything like that, you're not utilizing that at every step, utilize it and I promise you'll notice a difference. Okay, now we're gonna get to our main shade. So whatever your main shade might be, the key is pressing, okay? So if you are one of those people that's only using a color corrector, say under your eyes and on a couple of spots, by all means, if you like a natural look, you can buff on your main shade everywhere except for where you place that color corrector, okay? But anywhere you put that color corrector, please press, okay? By pressing, you're gonna kind of build up that coverage without actually moving the color corrector around. Now, this can get more difficult if you are a girl that has dark spots in your contour. I feel like I've talked about that before in contouring videos. It is harder because you have to learn how to contour by pressing on your contour. None of this, much less of the upwards blending. You want to learn how to press on and then keep moving the brush to press to blend, okay? Same concept, okay? I applied color corrector everywhere here. Okay, now I'm going to apply it everywhere, okay? As you guys know, mascara, you don't have to layer. So if you are matched to a color corrector though, most likely it's because you have something you want extra coverage on. And I do recommend applying your highlights first, so that way, once you contour, you're gonna have even better coverage. If you like a very natural look and are only using color corrector, say under your eyes on maybe your nose, something like that, then by all means, you can contour, add your color corrector, and then your highlight just where you need it. So you're not gonna get that full coverage on your cheek if you don't want to. I hope that makes sense. So I'm just pressing. I'm not pulling this brush against my skin in any way. I'm just pressing. And I know this motion takes a bit of getting used to if you're not used to pressing on your makeup. I know people feel like it takes longer while learning, but I promise you'll get there and you'll be like, oh my gosh, I could still, even with using a color corrector and the way I do my makeup now, I can still put my makeup on in less than 5 minutes. The more you do it, the more you get better at it. And there you go. Okay, so one thing I wanted to mention is you saw, yes, I used Mango under my eyes for color corrector. I also used my Sandy, my main shade, under my eyes again. So I'm layering 2 shades so far under my eyes for coverage. You don't necessarily have to. I find I get much better coverage when I go from a color corrector, then I apply my main shade to bring it back to matching, because it otherwise would be a little bit, it would be too dark. I also find that when using a color corrector under your eyes, especially if you have a much lighter main shade or a much lighter brightener like I do, I like a bright under eye, so I use a lot of shades down, Aura as my brightener. If I don't apply that main shade, even though you might think that like 3 layers is gonna be like, oh, it's gonna build up, it's gonna look, it's gonna crease, it's gonna look cakey, all those things, it's all on how much you use. Using this brush to just kind of press it on, bring it back to matching, I get much better coverage, and I call it bridging the gap. So I'm going from Mango, Sandy's only 1 shade down, but then Aura is way down here. If I was to go straight from Mango to Aura, it will increase the look of texture under my eyes because I didn't bridge that gap in any way. So if you're having issues using Mango as a color corrector and you're not utilizing your main shade under your eyes and then trying to go really light to bring it back up to brightness, you might just need to bridge that gap and give yourself better coverage, and kind of, it minimizes texture. I know for me, that is a problem area for me. Trust me, I can still get no cakiness and no creasing. It's all in application. So, full face, we perfect again, okay? And again, if you feel like you are gonna be cakey or creasy under the eyes, utilize this at every layer and you won't have to worry about that. Now we have our main shade on. You can really assess if you need more coverage anywhere. Now, I feel like hyperpigmentation is probably the hardest thing to cover for most people. And again, I like to explain to people that hyperpigmentation is difficult because it varies so much from person to person. So I usually start with Mango. I find it works in a majority of cases. For me, it covers, but you'll see it does not disappear. I could spend more time on this. It doesn't bother me enough to like put too much effort into it. I like to do my makeup fast and I don't want to dwell on it. But some people are more concerned and they want more coverage. If you want more coverage and Mango doesn't work, it's because your hyperpigmentation is darker than Mango. It can, again, like it will vary depending on the tone of your hyperpigmentation and the darkness, whether what shade will work. I know some people that like to use contours as color correctors for their dark spots. I don't recommend that if your hyperpigmentation is over a very large area, because I find contours harder to apply and then cover since they're so much drier than highlights. So I say try as many highlights as you can to color correct first before you move on to contours, but because highlights are just easier to use. If Mango doesn't cut it, I usually jump up to Papaya. It works for a lot of darkness. So if you've been color matched to Papaya, it's because your darkness is darker than Mango. But again, hyperpigmentation can be tricky, can take some trial and error. So know that when it comes to color correction. Okay. But now that we have our main shade on, we've perfected, you can kind of assess whether you want more coverage. There's nothing wrong with layering back to your color corrector if you don't have enough coverage, as long as you are utilizing your Perfector. Once you've powdered, it is not recommended to then put creams on top of it. It can start making it look cakey, and we don't want to do that. So again, I'm just going to use my finger. I'm just gonna use a little bit more Mango, and I'm just gonna tap it right there. Now it's close enough to my main shade that I probably don't need to apply more Sandy, but I can just take my finger and I just kind of tap it on that general area and kind of circle around to blur it out as it goes. And then I'm just gonna gently press that on. Make sure It's not looking heavy or cakey, and still looks like skin to me, so that is my goal. So now we can layer. Now we can layer that brightening shade. Since we've matched all of our darkest tones, we used our main shade, we are matching our neck. So if you are one of those girls that is like the absolute opposite, using mango, white peach, I feel those are probably the hardest application wise. So be patient with trial and error. Try using less mango, try using a little bit more. I feel like if you are, say, using mango sandy, so you just have redness, but you have a very dark neck and chest, and you're more like me, that's what I use, you're not gonna need to use much mango at all, okay? Because you are so close to mango in comparison, which means that you might have a darker face than your neck, but you still, it will tone it down to matching, if that makes sense. Sandy, my color, does not do much for darkness or redness. So if you are at sandy, but you have those areas of concern, you might need mango. Again, mango is used a lot if you have a lot of warmth in your face, because it's a very warm shade. If you have a lot of warmth in your face and you are sandy and above, you're gonna need mango as well. I feel like I'm like harping on mango, but that's just because I feel like it is probably the most used color corrector. Like I said before, it's not the only. Like amber is also a really great color corrector. Say you are more like your neck is the tone of white peach, but you have darkness, amber all the way, using a small amount. Again, it's just like mango, to where the reason why it color corrects so well is the warmth in it, the undertones of it. But it can pull too warm, can pull you too dark, but by using that main shade over, it will tone it back down, bring it to matching. Then you can use your brightener in order to brighten you back up and bring in your lightest tones. So there is a method to the madness of the way I color correct and color match. And I hope that helps explain kind of more of my thought processes on how I use a color corrector, why it's important to apply a certain way with a certain brush, all of those things. I can't go this far and just not finish up my makeup. So let's speed this up and finish it up real fast. We're gonna pick up the Buffy. Now this brush is my favorite for under eye brightening. So just because I recommend this for color correctors for beginners, once you get that layer down, or once you just have application down, there's no reason you can't play with other brushes and other methods as you learn how much you need to add. Once you've got that down, your application is going to get faster and you're going to be golden. It's just that first learning curve. There is a bit of a learning curve. Okay, let's brighten. Okay, I've like got all messed up. I've been so concentrated on talking about highlights, I forgot to contour. I never brighten first, and I'm like, wait, this is weird. Like, I'm all backwards today. So, key with brightening, again, use this. If you're finding you're getting texture or your skin's looking scaly or anything where it just like increases the look of texture after brightening, your brightener is too light. You need to use a slightly darker color, really press it in with the brush, and then perfect. And then if it is increasing the look of texture on your skin, the shade is too light for you. Okay, I'm gonna stop talking and finish up this face. Okay, friends, so now that we are color corrected and got our face on, I haven't done my eyes yet, but oh my gosh, I almost said that I was gonna make this video short and sweet, and then I went ahead and talked this long. So I'm sorry. I hope that helped kind of explain getting started with a color corrector and answered some of those questions for you guys. If you're having trouble with yours, holler at me. If I've color meshed you, email me. I can help troubleshoot any kind of issues you might be having. That's what I'm here for. Again, if you are needing color mesh, I'd be happy to help you out. Just follow the questionnaire in the link below. It's that little triangle. Click on that and it'll have the description box pop up. If you don't know, every week my entire deets on my makeup, every color and brush I used are always in that box, so you guys know all the info. So thank you for watching and I love you guys. Bye.